Good evening, La Cañada parents. This is Mr. Cardinal, your Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, and we're grateful that you're here tonight for our LCUSD 712 Math Pathways discussion. I'm joined by a really amazing group of guests that I'll ask to introduce themselves in just a moment, and want to make sure that we share our screen because we will drive per a slide deck tonight. Nope, we definitely don't want that. See, Dr. Gold, what happens? I get all fancy and then I've lost
Calm
my
and tech on, right?
presentation. I'm trying to keep calm and tech on. I don't know where my stuff went. There you go. See?
Perfect.
All right, our agenda for tonight, everyone, is we just want to set the stage with introductions and purpose to share with you details about the 712 math pathways and the courses offered in grades 7, 8, and then when your students get to grades 9 and 12. Opportunities for acceleration, either in the form of summer placement exams or summer school classes that allow your students to work ahead. We'll talk about the LCUSD math placement policies, your opportunities for engagement in math education here in LCUSD, and answer your questions at the end. Dr. Gold is going to be monitoring the question and answer in the chat, and he'll interrupt the discussion if it's for good of the order, or just try to direct anything. And I'll ask Mrs. Wright, Mrs. Calm, and Mr. Nunez if they see anything in the chat that their expertise can address, that they just respond directly to that. We're going to ask our presenters to introduce themselves. We'll let that just go as they definitely wish to say. Ms. Calm, I see that you have your hand up, and why don't you go ahead?
Nope, you shouldn't be a hand up, but that's okay.
Very eager, Miss Kong. We love it. We love the eagerness.
Why don't you take
what?
the floor to introduce yourself, Ms. Calm?
I'll try to lower my hand at some point in time. There we go. Oh, there we are. Hi, I'm Cindy Calm. This is my 25th year teaching here at La Cañada High School. I've taught calculus that entire time. I currently teach BC Calculus and AP Pre-Calculus, and I'm also a former math department chair.
Ms. Calm, I'm not trying to add too much to your already robust biography, but I wondered if you could just share that, as we discussed, you're also an LCUSD parent and you have your students going through our math program, both at the high school and at the elementary.
I am. I do have 3 children in the district. I have a junior, a 6th grader, and a 2nd grader. And so I'm also looking at this through the lens of a parent and also as a former student of LCUSD.
Go Cougars, I think we're supposed to say, right, Mrs. Calm?
No, go Lions.
Lions, my apologies.
LCE Lions.
That's right. And I'm recording this too, my gosh. Mr. You want to introduce yourself? Mr. Nunez, go ahead.
All right. I didn't catch that last bit. I'm Juan Nunez. I've been teaching at LCHS for the last 8 years. This is year 18 for me in the classroom. The last 8 years have been here at LCHS. I've been teaching 9th grade from the start. I taught a couple years of 10th grade also, but the last few years it's been both the ninth grade college prep class and the 9th grade advanced class, or what has now become the honors class. I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Nunez. Ms. Wright.
Hi, I'm Samantha Wright, and I teach 8th grade math, which I've been teaching for more than 10 years, in all of its iterations, which is currently Algebra 1 and the Math 8 class, both of which are great, and I'm happy to be here too.
Thank you. Dr. Gould.
Yeah, hello. My name is Jared Gold. I've been in this district now for 15 years, 4 years as an assistant principal at the high school, and been the principal of La Cañada Middle School for the last 11 years, and excited for tonight.
Thank you, everyone. So the purpose of tonight, everyone, is to really just kind of dig in and explain the LCHS 712 math pathways to elementary school parents. And the reason why we want to do that is that we want to make you aware that there may be some decisions that you'd like to, with regard to, that you'd like to make for on behalf of your children, with respect to possibly enrolling them in classes to get ready for 7, 8. Not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination, but you'll hear later in our presentation. We'll address that. and also make you aware of just, if they wish to not do any of those placement exams, what lies ahead of them. And there's some choices as it regards perhaps summer school study and the right math placement for them on these pathways. We want to describe and explain the ways that parents and students can work ahead. Their third big idea is to explain, or I should say, describe, explain, and distribute the LCHS math placement policy so parents are aware of the placement policy and the rights of appeal. And we want to take your questions at the end of our presentation. All right, Dr. Gold, I think you were going to talk to this one.
Sure. So just to talk about the current math pathways, and Sam, please jump in if I get something wrong. We had a math pathway years and years ago. We shifted that math pathway about 8 or 9 years ago, and now in the last 4 or 5 years, we really shifted back to a more traditional math pathway. And we'll talk about that a lot tonight. But currently there are two really main math pathways. There's just seventh grade math, which is covers the seventh grade standards. Those kids would then matriculate into eighth grade math. The other course we have is 7-8 advanced math, which that course would take all of the seventh grade standards and all of the eighth grade standards, so 2 years of math, and complete that in 1 year. And those students matriculate into Algebra 1-8. Um, Again, there's other pathways and skipping and all of that stuff we'll talk about later tonight. But the two traditional math pathways we have in 7-8 is Math 7 to Math 8, which is a 2-year pathway, or Math 7-8 Advanced to Algebra 1-8, which would be the advanced pathway. And then so currently, if you were to take our students, really the way it kind of looks is in seventh grade we have 10 sections, so we have two full-time teachers, which take up 10 sections of math. Those are pretty evenly split. Obviously, you see the numbers in front of you. It's not really even. 153 kids in Math 7 and 176 kids in 7-8 Advanced, but there are 5 sections of Math 7 and 5 sections of 7-8 Advanced. And then there are currently also 5 sections of 8th grade math with 139 students. And then Algebra 1-8 is also 5 sections with 160 students. Again, if you do that math, it'll pretty quickly tell you that is not all the students, because there's some kids that have advanced beyond the middle school math and are in high school level math. And again, we'll talk about that later tonight. And then just so if you wanted to see below, if you don't know the structure of the middle school, we have teams in middle school. We call them small schools. So we have small school 1 and 2 are 7th grade teams, and those are the teachers, Mr. Kim and Miss Dornian. And our 8th grade team, obviously here is Miss Wright with school 3. And then Miss Wong, she is our school 4 math teacher. And you see how those sections are divided up, with school 1 having 2 sections of regular, 3 sections of advanced, vice versa for school 2. And then self-explanatory at school 3 and school 4. There's 2 sections of Math 8 and 3 Algebra 1 in school 3. And again, this is pretty random, the way that is done and the way it's split up. We try and even it out the best we can between small schools, but when you have 5 sections and 1 teacher, you have to be able to divide them up unequally. So that's why you see them how they are. Other
Thanks,
than that,
Dr. Gold. I would just add that for parents, you'll note that on the top part of this slide, you'll see that there's 2 links, both to the course outline for 7-8 Advanced and the course outline for Algebra 1-8. We'll be sending this slide deck to all the families in grades 5 and 6. So in your, if you wanted to go back over it and see what really those courses entail, you can click on those links.
And then for 7th grade, when students are coming in between 6th and 7th grade, we do have a board policy about how we normally place those kids. Again, this is outside of the realm of advancing past grade level math, which is 7th grade or 7th grade advanced. So when students are rising 7th graders, so they're finishing up 6th grade, that is determined by 5 specific metrics. And this is determined not only by the metrics, but also then the recommendations from the 6th grade math teachers are given to our 7th grade counselors. And that's how a student is originally originally placed in their math class. So this the 5 criteria are their CAS performance, and data from when matriculated to 7th grade from their 6th grade year, the end of course final. So that measures the student's mastery and readiness. So the end of year final. So as you'd imagine, these recommendations come later in the summer. Their final math grade on the end of the year official report card in 6th grade. And then the teacher has recommendation power of work habits and how hard that child works. And then also when those students are placed, the first 2 weeks of school, we do give a diagnostic assessment to make sure that they're placed accurately. So that's kind of the criteria as we place students, whether it's in 7th grade, Math 7, or in Math 7-8 Advanced.
Okay, in terms of our 9-12 math overview, I wanted to share a couple of key terms with everyone. And so forgive us if you have older children and some of this is, new to you. But for those, who are on the call, whose 5th or 6th grader perhaps is your oldest, we think that this would be helpful. The following terms that are important to what's going to be spoken about over the next little bit is the following. We use the term college preparatory. Those are on grade level courses that are college eligible curriculum approved by the University of California. I will admit that the students sometimes refer to those as the so-called regular classes. They're non-honors or non-advanced placement or non-advanced classes. We have courses that are honors and advanced level courses, particularly in younger or lower grades. Those are on grade level. They're also approved by the University of California, and some of them qualify for an extra grade point at La Cañada. I'm going to pause for a moment and ask for all of those on the call who've gone to high school in the United States. You may recall that there is something called a grade point average. Most typically, those are out of 4 grade points. So, remarkable, the effective GPA would be something like a 3.80 or 3.85. When students take honors and advanced classes at LCHS, they have the ability to have a grade point average that is beyond 4.0, due to the fact that the honors and advanced classes have that extra grade point. We have a series of courses, 24 in total, that are labeled advanced placement courses. This is a curriculum developed by the College Board, which is the same organization that brings the SAT test and the PSAT exams to high school bound, or excuse me, college bound students. And these are on or above grade level, and they are UC approved courses at the honors level, and they earn an extra grade point when students apply to the University of California and California State University campuses. Advanced placement courses are the equivalent of college courses, typically the 1st or 2nd year college courses. They're just taught by high school faculty at high school. And there is an exam at the end of those classes called the AP exam that students take. And at La Cañada High School, they take a lot of them, and they do very, very well. We're going to share a little bit about what the so-called A through G course list is for you. These are college eligible courses or college approved courses. And we're going to use the phrase summer acceleration. And we just want to let you know that that means taking a year-long course during the summer to advance ahead in a student's coursework. And before I move on, I just want to give the opportunity for any teachers to add anything they wish to any of those definitions. Don't have to, but just thought I'd pause. Great. All right. So in terms of the so-called A through G eligibility, for everyone who's never heard of this before, let me just explain it to you. The University of California, which in the state of California is really the kind of norming body for what a college preparatory high school curriculum is, takes the academic domains or departments, fields of study of a high school, and breaks them down into 7 different categories and gives them the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So as you see on the chart to the left, you can see that the subject domain of history, which is given the letter A, or the subject area A, has a minimum requirement of students to take those years of high school classes, 2 years, in order to be eligible to apply to the University of California. For the purposes of our talk tonight on this chart, if you were to go to domain C for mathematics, you can see that the University of California has a minimum requirement of 3 years that students take, in essence, the equivalent of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, or a higher mathematics class, and they recommend 4 years. So a big deal at locking you out of high school is that we want our students to be so-called A through G eligible. That means that they have completed all of the minimum requirements outlined in the chart on the left, and that they're successfully getting grades of C's or higher in that. Obviously, B's and A's better. And we wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on that concept, and we'll stay on that for just a little bit more. In the event that you ever wanted to look and see what locking into high school's so-called A through G course list is, that's available on a website called UC Doorways, and we've linked that here. When you land on that, you type in locking into high school, and then you can see that our course list comes up with Frontridge Preps and St. Francis and Fashaz and so on. And so we're going to click into that and look a little bit more in depth. So this is a screenshot of that UC eligible. These are the UC eligible math classes or college preparatory classes that locking you out of high school offers. And you can see that on this list, it goes all the way from Algebra 1 up to Mrs. Calm's class, AP Calculus BC. The classes that have a star next to it with a yellow band are those advanced placement or AP classes, as well as our LC Math 3 advanced class. And those all are given the extra grade point calculation when students apply to the University of California. Hang in there, 5th and 6th grade parents. I know that we're talking a lot about high school or college stuff now, and you came to a math pathways talk, but trust us, this is going to make a little bit of sense as we get further into our classes. All right, so hang in there. All right, in the event you wanted to see all of the math classes or any of the classes that students have the availability to take, we have that in a course catalog that is available on the LCHS website at lchsspartans.net. We've given you the link down there, and you can peruse through that. If you were to open or go into that document, you'll see that the math courses are organized with a recommended grade band. It is gives you a sense if there's a prerequisite for the course, gives you a description of the class, lets you know if it's an honors or advanced placement class, if it qualifies for a weighted grade. And so those are important details that we'd want you to just be aware of as you are guiding your student in the transition from upper elementary into middle and then on to high school. All right, here is the LCHS math course list for this year. And I'm going to ask my high school teaching colleagues to comment on this in just a minute. You can see that across the columns from the left to the right, you'll see the recommended grade bands for those courses. That means that the courses are available to students in that grade band. You'll course number that will appear on their schedule and ultimately on their transcript, the official document of the records of grades through high school. You can see that the UC transcript abbreviation course title, whether it's a college preparatory course, whether it is UC approved, and whether it's an honors course for either LCHS and UC. Mr. Nunez, Ms. Calm, the parents on the call would see courses that perhaps are somewhat, kind of known to them, like geometry honors or geometry. And they see a couple of classes that have that LC moniker. Can we just give a quick summary about how kind of we're changing the pathway and kind of closing those classes? Again, they may have older children that are actually in some of those classes, but by the time that they get there, we suspect that those classes will go away. Just maybe a quick couple of sentences on that, if you don't mind.
Sure, Mr. Cardinal. So the classes there with the LC Math number and then advanced title are from when we had the compaction model, where we were putting 4 years of math into 3 years. We've done a lot of work around alignment and student wellness and what those courses meant for particularly our juniors. And after a lot of that work, we transitioned back into a more traditional pathway. So the LC Math 2 Advanced and LC Math 3 Advanced courses that they see there, they're being sunset, giving room to the more traditional algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus pathway. So this is the last year that we'll be holding the LC Math 2 Advanced course, and then LC Math 3 Advanced will be sunset next year.
That's outstanding, Mr. Nunez. Thanks for that great summary. All right. So here is your present LCHS math pathways. And the reason why we put the 27-28 school year is that this is with, as Mr. Nunez just said, none of those kind of historical LC classes, the ones that we said LC Math 1 or Math 1 Advanced and so on. So, and please note on the title of this exam, this slide, you'll see that this is with no challenge exams. So meaning if you have a 6th grader and, continue to do well in classes, they'll be provided access to, in essence, 2 class pathways. The college preparatory pathway begins with Math 7, goes to Math 8. It's one of, or some of the sections that Mrs. Wright, in fact, teaches, and then progresses on in high school to Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and pre-calculus. And then there's an opportunity for students who, in that college preparatory pathway, they finish their high school career, potentially even taking an advanced placement pre-calculus class. That's a class that Ms. Calm teaches also, in addition to Calculus BC. And what we hear from our university partners all the time is that they're looking for calculus-ready students. So there's good news for students who, maybe it's your student on this call, who are going to be going through that college pathway. They're going to be ending with 4 years of math. They're going to be ending with certainly with pre-calculus as their terminal class. And maybe that's even going to be in the advanced placement setting. So a lot of good opportunities there. Now, I don't know if this supposition is shared with my presenters, my colleagues who are on this call, but I suspect that you're on this math call because you may be curious about that, but you may also have students that are interested in math and maybe pursuing, kind of the advanced pathway. And that's as Dr. Gold shared a little bit ago in his slide, and maybe we can ask Mrs. Wright to speak about some of this that she's seen. Students coming out of 6th grade may also be placed in Math 7-8 Advanced. And as Dr. Gold said earlier, that is a course that has all of the middle school standards. So students involved in that class, that dense class, are taking a very, very rigorous class. And they use that as a springboard in 8th grade to really begin a high school math class that Mrs. Wright teaches along with Mrs. Wong in the 8th grade, and that's Algebra 1. And that's those innovations that Mr. Nunez just spoke about. This is what we've been working hard to kind of bring about. And students then that advanced pathway with no summer study or taking no challenge exams, they go ultimately from Math 7-8 Advanced 7th grade, begin high school in 9th grade at Honors Geometry, progress through Honors Algebra 2 Trig, AP Pre-Calculus, and then have a couple of choice points to take Advanced Placement Calculus, either AB, which is a year-long high school class that engages with really the first semester of college level calculus, or they take the BC class, which really is a BC class, a year-long high school class that engages in the entirety of that kind of equivalent of first year or university intro-level calculus. Students may also take an AP statistics class. And the reason why you see the letters PCC there is that La Quinta High School offers a Pasadena City College class on our campus taught by a PCC professor, opened only to our students. And the subject that they teach in that specific class period is multivariable calculus and linear algebra. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Colleagues, anything to add on anything that we just talked about?
Nope.
Dr. Gold, you good? Okay. How's what we doing on the Q&A in the chat?
The first question just came in. I haven't read it yet. It literally just came in as you were asking that. So
Awesome.
I will read it and I'll answer it if I have to live, or I could just type it in.
Great. All right. There's some opportunities for acceleration for rising 7th graders. So your current 6th graders starting next academic year, they can enroll in Math 7-8 advanced, and that'll be, a really great class if that's, the appropriate placement for them. They also have the ability to participate in some summer challenge exams. And maybe Dr. Gold, since this is immediately under your area of purview, you can talk to our guest a little bit about that.
Yeah, so and there was actually a question, what does it mean, no challenge exam? So the way the opportunities for acceleration work is for any rising 7th graders, again, they could be enrolled in Math 7-8 Advanced, and that would be a recommendation from the teacher, based on those four criteria I mentioned earlier. Also, if your child is placed in Math 7 and you feel like it's not the right placement, we do have a board policy, which we'll talk about at the end, that you could go against the recommendation of the school. Oh, we changed slides, Jim.
Yeah, I thought we just go back to that one since folks were asking about the slide about why is it called no challenge exam.
Oh yeah. So again, yeah. So the no challenge exam, this would be that there's no advancement in the summer to be able to take a test to skip out of a class. So for example, during the summer, between 6th grade and 7th grade, we do offer a test twice for rising 7th graders. And what that test is, it would cover the Math 7-8 advanced standards. So you see that on the bottom under the advanced math pathways. A child has an opportunity to take this test twice, because obviously they're different tests. They're aligned to the 7-8 curriculum that we offer to our 7-8 advanced students. Very similar to the content that those students take in the end of year exam. And if a child takes that test and they pass that with a score of a 70% or higher, they would have the opportunity to skip out of 7-8 advanced. And then so in 7th grade, they would start into Algebra 1-8. So again, that moves that whole acceleration that you saw up a year. And then beyond that, if students want to take the Algebra 1-8 exam as a rising 7th grader, they may, and they will have two opportunities to take that as well. And those students would have the opportunity to skip into honors geometry in 7th grade. So again, the pathway that Mr. Cardinal showed in the previous slide is if you did not do any acceleration through the summer exam, but if they did take the exam and they passed the test, then that would accelerate that advanced pathway up a year or possibly 2 years, to be able to start in a higher level math in 7th grade.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to come back to this and just kind of show it one more time, okay? So this is another visual. We're again focused on the 2020, 27, 28 school year. So we've gotten, all of those classes that Mr. Nunez spoke about just a little bit, they've sunset. And now we have some choices. Coming out of 6th grade, students may elect to just matriculate into the college preparatory pathway and take Math 7 and Math 8, go on to Algebra, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then some form of pre-calculus, be UC eligible, complete 4 years of math. Remember, 3 is required, and good things can happen. Students maybe are math precocious, they're interested, they want to try and more rigorous classes. Maybe they have an interest in a STEAM field or STEM field, for university study. Not suggesting that 5th and 6th graders have that all figured out, but maybe it's something that they're talking about, and you're beginning to nurture that curiosity. They have in the red a chance that we showed you on that prior slide to engage in the advanced college preparatory pathway by taking that 7-8 advanced class in grade 7, and then moving on to Miss Wright's 8th grade class, and then everything else that's on the slide terminating, in 12th grade, most likely with Miss Com and BC Calculus. And that's with no summer study, no so-called placement exams that Dr. Gold just talked about. But presume for a moment that you have a math, a student who really, really loves math. They're a 5th or 6th grader. You're, dedicating family time to have them do some form of, learning on the 7-8 standards, and they want to take that placement test. And let's say they pass that placement test, and as a 7th grader, now they're with Mrs. Wright or Mrs. Wong, in Algebra 1. And we wanted to show what that looks like moving forward. That would mean that they're in geometry honors, really a 9th grade honors class, but they're doing that a year ahead in 8th grade, continuing to progress on having advanced placement BC calculus as a junior. And then that would give them the opportunity to take the multivariable and linear algebra class offered by Pasadena City College to our students at Locking High School during our instructional day, only to our, open to our students and with the PCC professor. Students may also take AP statistics, as they often do. And so we want to just lay that out graphically so you can see that as we continue to talk. Dr. Old, how are we doing on the Q&A in the chat?
We're doing good. We have a couple questions. One, I'm not positive, so I would like to ask Cindy or want to ask this, is why is the Algebra 2 honors course on the Advanced College Prep #2 missing trig? I believe all honors Algebra 2 has trig embedded in it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's just an oversight. It should say Algebra 2 trig honors.
Perfect. And the other is the Calc AB be taken in 10th grade and Calc BC be taken in 11th grade, or is AP Pre-Calc a prerequisite?
Okay, so I was hoping this question would come up. It's not suggested that you have a student take AB calculus followed by BC. They're not sequential courses. You choose one or the other. As Mr. Cardinal mentioned, AP Calculus BC is technically AP Calculus ABC. So we do cover the same exact content as the AB class does. The difference is the rigor, and the rigor comes by way of pacing. We don't have a lot of time to actually do any algebra review in BC Calc, so students really need to have a solid foundation in those skills. And then we cover 2 additional units in BC. That's that C component there. The suggestion is that if a student wants to take BC, our feeder class to that would be AP Pre-Calculus. And then if a student chooses to take just pre-calculus regular, they're eligible to take AB calculus as an option for their perhaps senior year.
Thanks, Mrs. Com. That's great. Dr. Old, anything else?
Nope, nothing I can answer.
Great. All right, and so we have some opportunities for acceleration for rising 8th graders.
Is that me? Perfect. So again, so now if a student did not necessarily take the test or didn't pass the test and completed 7, 8 advanced, they would in essence be enrolled in Algebra 1-8 for the next year. Some of those students who take 7th grade regular and want to get into algebra, they just found a passion for math or like math or want to catch up with some of their peers. They do have an opportunity from 7th grade regular to take the 7-8 advanced test to go into Algebra 1-8 in 8th grade. Again, it's just like the other test is given twice, once in May, once in August, and the minimum score is at 80% or higher. So those students who are 7th grade regular, or sorry, 7th grade math, if they wanted to skip into Algebra 1-8, they would have to pass that challenge exam to be able to get into Algebra 1-8 in 8th grade.
Thanks, Dr. Gould.
Yep.
All right, and then here's the math pathways just one more time. I know that we're trying to give some content and direction and then graphically represent it so folks can orient themselves kind of moving forward, seeing the grades and where their students are.
And just as we have the slide up, one parent asked a question, which probably is not relatable to a lot of students, but I do want to just address it in the slide. Just so you know, your child could continue to test to the placement where they should be. So, for example, your kid is a highly motivated and a highly functional math student. They pass 7-8 advanced tests, then we'd give them the algebra test if they wanted. They passed the algebra test, and if they wanted to, we would then give them the geometry honors test. We would keep testing them as far as they wanted to, as long as they received a score that was adequate. That was it, Jeff.
All right, here's some big ideas that we want to share with you. And again, this is about trying to give you an opportunity for planning. We have not, the LCUSD has not given this talk for about 9 or more years. We've been grateful to our partners at the Locking Out Math Parents Association who have very much been, kind of communicating this. But here's some, kind of information straight from your district leaders and teachers. First, the challenge exams that Dr. Gold is referencing for your 6th graders in the summer between 6th and 7th graders, I think the first biggest idea we want you to take away, and perhaps if you take nothing else away from this talk, you take this idea away. They're content exams. They're used to measure the degree of proficiency of your students, in essence, showing us that they know the content that they've never had in an LCUSD class, right? Because they are coming out of 6th grade. And so that means that they really, really need to pay attention to the fact that they're content exams. And that Math 7-8 Advanced Challenge Exam is a proposal that's really having your student demonstrate proficiency of skipping over 2 years or all of the years of the middle school standard. And so that's a new thing because that class hasn't been around for that long. And the Algebra 1-8 has only been in, 8th grade for, I think this is Mrs. Wright's 2nd year. No disrespect if I'm not getting that quite right, Mrs. Wright, but I believe this is the 2nd year of that. And remember, if your child is trying to skip over that, that's actually skipping over 3 years of math. And that the placement then for your rising 7th grader would be in a high school honors geometry class with 9th and 10th graders. And, parents want to know that information, and so you can plan accordingly. And that we do want to say that there's a historically low pass rate. And part of that, I think, is our attempt to correct the message that these are content exams and students have to prepare for them. And also it's hard to just, demonstrate proficiency when you're talking about 3 years of math coming out of 6th grade. All right. So we wanted to provide some help on who should consider the challenge exams. And we'll ask maybe Mrs. Kahn and Mr. News if they want to, Mrs. Wright too, of course, if they want to kind of comment on some of the attributes that they see in their successful advanced math students in both middle and in the high school. So I think the first thing it should really be that you should consider the challenge exams, these exams that are available in the summer between 6th and 7th grade. If your child performs well in elementary math and would benefit from more challenging math curriculum, that may be everyone on the call, or that may be a few folks on the call. It's your child really enjoys spending a significant time outside of school building math skills and feels ready for more advanced coursework in middle school. I would imagine that this is the kind of thing where your child is probably coming home and asking you, can I get involved in maybe a math club? Can we go to Kumon? Can we do, I don't know, art of problem solving? I'd like to be, I don't really want to do baseball or soccer, but I'd like to do math, or I do love playing soccer, and I'd also love to learn more about math. The third bullet point is that really you should consider these challenge exams if your child will take some formal math class that covers the 7th and 8th grade math standards, or has been tutored formally on the content. And I'd like to pause on that just for a second. You've made time out of your busy schedule to hear your district leaders and teachers share with you big ideas and items of advice. We want to have your students thrive as they make the transition from our successful elementary schools into our amazing middle and high school programs, particularly in the hands of the gifted teachers that are on this call tonight. And the reason why we're saying that they should take have some formal preparation is we do not want to have that first interaction in the summer between 6th and 7th grade, them taking an exam for which they're not really prepared, and they get that sense of defeat or frustration. I think parents understand that. And then the last bullet point is your child's prepared to take an exam that covers mathematics curriculum well beyond what is taught in their elementary courses. So we really want them to be thoughtful about that. Now remember, taking challenge exams between the summer of the 6th and 7th grade year is not the only way that students can move ahead. And we'll talk a little about that in a second. Colleagues, anything to add on that? Dr. Gold, anything you want to share about that?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. I think I do want to be clear that if you do take a formal math class, whether it's at a local middle school or high school, whether it's at PCC, whether it's a tutor, all students would have to take the exam. So we don't take transcripts or credits from any school to be able to skip a math class.
And I should also do a better job just to provide a corrective. By a formal math class, I just mean something that's organized and structured. And you'll see that in the next couple that you're working through the textbook that we use, presumably, that you're following the course outline, that your students are competent and comfortable about the concepts that those courses can cover. It doesn't have to end with a letter grade and a transcript because those don't really, apply for middle school students. The transcript is more of a high school thing. But maybe that's through a math learning center. Maybe it's through community activists that we have a, remarkably active and gifted parent population that, does a lot of support for math. So we just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that.
Yep.
All right. And the details about our 7-8 math class. We used the book Math in Focus, Singapore Math. We wanted to let you know that we actually use the accelerated course 2A and books A and B, giving you the ISBN number, big review of, again, some of the topics, and then we gave you that course overlink. So the overview, so you can link there and check that out. All right.
Yep.
Dr. Gould?
Yeah, so I'm just minimize that. So, I guess a lot of people are interested in kind of the results of what it looks like when these students are taking the test, how many students are taking them. So this is a snapshot from 2024, so summer 2024, and the 7-8 advanced test. 61 students took it, 11 passed it on their first attempt. So that was 18% of our students who took the test passed it, and then the second exam. So mainly the students that did not pass this test would take it again. And on the second time around, 39 students passed it, and 5 passed it. In 2024, we did have a board policy that was very unclear, and it said parents may request to be placed in the next math in sequence. So in the summer of 2024, parents could use that board policy to skip out of 7-8 advanced. There are some issues with that, and those students who are skipping out, who didn't meet the threshold of their percentages, we felt like a lot of those students were not being as successful as they could be in the 8th grade algebra class. So Jim and I worked with the Board of Education to revise that policy, and now the way that policy reads, that parents still may request to be placed in the next class in sequence in that grade level. So instead of being able to skip out of 7-8 advanced all of 7th grade math that year and go to 8th grade, if your child is placed in 7th grade regular, I would say, they have an opportunity to request to go into 7-8 advanced. So that's the way that board policy reads now.
Dr. Gold, can I just clarify
Yes.
on that second row there where it says 7th and then the number of students is 39? I just want to make sure you said so that in that sitting, 39 students took the 7-8 advanced exam and 5 passed, and that constitutes 13%.
13%, but then with the board policy, 14 additional.
Got it.
And then so if you take that 19,
Perfect.
56% pass
Thank you.
that test, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you look at the 8th grade test, again, that passage rate, these are 7th graders going into 8th grade, and 16 kids took that, and they went to LC Math 1 Advanced. Again, these are just numbers so you could look at them. That's almost a moot point because that course sequence isn't even there anymore. If you want to go to the next slide, we could look at the stats from 2025. So this is this summer. These are a lot more in line with the courses that we have now, just because 2024 was still a transition year. And if you look at this, again, with the new board policy, 79 students took the 7th grade advanced test, so rising 7th graders. And the first time around, the passage rate was fairly low and 16%, so 13 passed. Then in the second time around, 27 took it, 6 passed it, which constitutes 22% of those students passing the test. And then of those 19 students who passed the 7th grade test, they had an option to take the algebra test. And One of the 7th graders passed that the first time, and 4 passed it the second time. So those 5 students are in honors geometry in 7th grade.
Dr. Will, can I just interrupt you for a moment?
Please.
Underscore the point that I had an opportunity to be on the outstanding Locking Out Math Parents Association talk a couple weeks ago that went over this, and I think Dr. Gold, you and I have had enough meetings with enough of both, kind of parents and then talk to families and students themselves to demonstrate that I think that there's a strong coherence to the students that do pass this exam that have been in one of those, like they've been formally tutored, they've worked through the books, they've done the problems,
Sure.
they've prepared, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a student getting all the way to honors geometry in 7th grade, that is, as Miss Wright would say, a mathlete. It's a high level math student who usually has a passion or a gift for math. There's not a lot of students that would get that far. So yeah, I'd agree with that. There was definitely some preparation put in.
Right.
Just to compare those numbers, so if you look at those 8th grade numbers, those are students that were in 7th grade math, and they wanted to get into algebra. Again, that is a hard exam for a lot of these students. 14 attempted, and no kids passed it the first time around. The second time, of those 14, 5 took it the second time, and 1 passed it. And those students would be placed in algebra. Then again, with those students who are in 7-8 advanced in 7th grade, had an opportunity as going into 8th grade to take the algebra test. Again, a fairly low passage rate, but a 2 out of 14 passed the first test, and then 1 out of 5, which would be 20%, passed it the second time. So again, when we say historically low, I mean I guess it's how you look at it. I mean, when 30%, 20% of the kids are doing well, our teachers have taken a lot of time to look at those exams, to review those exams, to analyze those exams. The 7th grade advanced are completely made by our 7th grade math teachers who teach this course, who create the end of year exams. Our 8th grade algebra test that to skip out of algebra was made in conjunction with Mr. Nunez and Miss Wright and Miss Wong, oversaw by Miss Calm, to make sure those tests are equitable and fair. And I think our teachers have done a really good job in doing that.
Thanks, Dr. Well, before we move on, just want to provide an opportunity. I don't know, teachers don't have to say anything, but just don't want to keep just trudging ahead of. Great. All right. I know that we want to talk a little bit about kind of summer challenge exams, just, coming for those summer between 6th and 7th grade or summer between 7th and 8th grade. And Ms. Wright, would you mind just commenting on what, you and your colleagues in the 7-8 talk about as they see, kind of student performance and how those exams relate to what the kids themselves are doing in the class?
Sure. I think Dr. Gould said it pretty well, but we really worked to make sure the exams were fair. But having said that, they are very difficult because they're covering a lot of material. And the kids can't pass this test if they just know it at a surface level. They're really expected to know it as well as the kids who take our classes know it. So my biggest advice would just be, as you guys have said, if a student is really driven to move and try to accelerate by skipping a grade or skipping 2 grades, I think that's wonderful. If they're not driven to do that and they haven't prepared, it can be they can feel pretty bad coming in and taking that challenge exam in the summer and doing really poorly on it. Or if they prepare and prepare and prepare, but they don't pass it, sometimes they can be a little bit bored in our classes because they've tried to learn a lot of that material but don't know it super well. So I would just say, if they're thinking about taking it, that's great. Just make sure it's something that they, as a student, really want to do.
Great advice, Ms. Wright. Thank you so much. Anything, Ms. Nunez, Ms. Common, don't have to, just want to keep giving you a chance to weigh in if it's something sparks top of the mind.
I mean, just to Sam's point, that inner drive or that enjoyment piece is really important. Kids will have to put in more time, than they might at with the college preparatory course in our honors courses and advanced courses. And the degree to which a student will do that kind of readily has a lot to do with that inner drive and that enjoyment of the content. And a lot of times that is really, really closely tied to how well they perform in these more challenging courses.
Great, thank you. All right, so we just wanted to pause and ask, what if your child does not take a placement exam in 7-8? No problem. They're going to be placed in either Math 7 or Math 7-8 advanced class, depending on the recommendation of their 6th grade teacher. And remember that they'll have additional opportunities to accelerate in the future. They can take the 7-8 advanced assessment, as Dr. Gold and Ms. Wright just spoke a little bit about. They can take a summer school class, kind of as they're transitioning into high school or during high school, and change pathways, going from, let's say, taking Algebra 1 in the college preparatory pathway and maybe taking a geometry class in summer and then skipping ahead to Algebra 2 Trig honors or Algebra 2 Trig. So there's a lot of opportunities. You don't have to feel like there's a one-time small window, of your 6th grader turning into 7th grade. And if you do that, you don't take a challenge exam, you missed the opportunity. Dr. Gold, how are we doing on the Q&A? Teachers, anything to add? Good.
Yeah, nothing major in the Q&A. I'm answering them as they come.
Great. So let's talk about the opportunities for acceleration. Let's and focus this in on the 9th through 12th grade students and kind of introduce a leveling up concept, right? This is typically done by teacher recommendation. That's when students move from the CP or college preparatory pathway to the advanced or honors pathway. Typically happens through, or another way of doing that, excuse me. So if, let's say in Mr. Nunez's Algebra 1 class, he finds a student that, really kind of is connected, really is demonstrated outstanding work habits, in whatever the history of the past in middle school, maybe they've just moved into La Cañada, but clearly is, loves math and wants really to be considered for a placement in geometry honors. Mr. Nunez can make that recommendation to counselors and support that kind of transfer. Another opportunity for acceleration is students can take a course during the summer at a summer school, either online or at a brick and mortar school, like Hillside Learning Center, like the Glendale Unified School District's a summer program that's offered at Crescenta Valley High School. I think most are aware that the La Cañada Educational Foundation summer school is not in operation any longer. And so, the high school team can do a lot of advising on opportunities for this kind of summer work ahead. Let me give you 2 examples. Example number 1, let's presume for a moment, as I just said a second ago, the students with Mr. Nunez in Algebra 1, they take the geometry P class. That just means it's college preparatory at a summer school. Maybe it's Scout by UC. Maybe it is through Method School. Maybe it's through any number of online providers, Apex Learning out of Seattle, Washington. They could then in 10th grade be in Algebra 2 honors and in essence kind of a year ahead. The second example is, let's say a student currently this academic year with Ms. Wright in Algebra 1-8. In the summer of 2026, let's say between that student's 8th and 9th grade, could take geometry, and that student then would be in honors Algebra 2 as a 9th grader, and their pathway at the end of high school would be 9th grade Algebra 2 Trig, honors Algebra 2 Trig, 10th grade AP Pre-Cal, 11th grade AP Calculus BC, and then they would have an opportunity to end their high school time by taking the PCC multivariable calculus and or AP stats. And sometimes kids take both because they're looking to demonstrate that. Now, I think a word should probably be, again, multivariable calculus is not a requirement. And we don't want to kind of fix that as the endpoint that every student should go to. But we do know that there are students that are applying to very selective universities and colleges. They do very well, by the way, coming from La Cañada, but they're applying to very, very competitive, highly selective colleges. And some of them are applying for engineering or STEM fields where that course is a very nice feather in the cap. All right, once again, to the LC Math Pathways. This time, please note directly in the center of, we've added summer school, and we put that asterisk next to it, okay? Again, student coming out of 6th grade, they do the college preparatory pathway, they don't do any summer school, they start in Math 7, they finish high school, they're calculus ready by taking a pre-cal class, they end high school by taking an advanced placement pre-cal class. That student's in good shape to apply. Perhaps not to the most selective STEM majors, but certainly apply to university. They do advanced college prep pathway, Math 7, 8 advanced. They don't do the summer placement exams. You don't have an interest in involving your students in really kind of a formal preparatory, kind of engagement with those Math 7 and 8 standards. You just want to let your kid be a kid. We salute you. We salute you for that. That's no problem. Student takes Math 7, 8 advanced. They take Algebra 1, 8 with Mrs. Wright. Then in the summer between their 8th and 9th grade year, they do geometry as I've suggested, and then you can see how the path lays out after that. All right, we're going to transition to that last part, and we wanted to give you the Administrative Regulation, or AR 6152.1. This is the regulation that specifies and clarifies the placement in math courses. At the very bottom bullet point, you can see that we've linked that policy there, so we wanted to put that in your hand. And this is basically the guidelines for students entering grade 7 and grade 9. And it's the method, as Dr. Gold spoke at the top of our talk, about this kind of fair and objective protocols for placing students in classes. And this is how La Cañada addresses the Math Placement Act of 2015 that calls for school districts to make, fair, objective, and transparent protocols and make sure that they're available to families. Big ideas of that administrative regulation is it includes 3 parts. The first one Dr. Gold spoke to again at the top of our talk, which are those 5 measures that we'll consider when placing students in either Math 7 or Math 7 Advanced. It provides guidelines for families that outlines what Dr. Gold spoke about, the so-called summer placement exams or challenge exams. Kind of specifies that they can be taken 2 times, that one of the exams you have to earn a 7%, another exam you have to earn an 80%. Dr. Gold spoke to that. And then the last part of this is it really outlines the recourse that parents have for challenging math placement. Their student. Let's say that your 6th grade teacher said your student should be in Math 7. You have the right to say, no, I challenge that, and place that student in the advanced course in their grade level, which would be the Math 7, 8 advanced class, against the recommendations of staff. And we try to do that in partnership with you because we want to make sure, first and foremost, that your child is correctly placed. Because where they're placed, we want them to do the very best they can, because we want them to have a great transition from elementary into the middle school. All right. As we're closing our talk right now, and we can take a few of your questions before we hit the hour kind of on the Zoom call, we wanted to share there's opportunities for parent engagement. La Cañada Unified is taking an approach to its K-8 math adoption that will, in essence, put in place for the 25-26 year a parent steering committee, or advisory committee, I should say, that will run parallel to the teacher math adoption committee. And we're hosting 3 open meetings for anyone that's interested in getting involved in that. And they're going to be on Wednesdays, on November 5th, the 28th of January in 2026, and March 4th. Those are all at 6:30, and they're going to be in-person meetings here at our district office at the Cornichon campus in the governing boardroom. I know that Zoom meetings are much more, perhaps convenient, but it's difficult for us to kind of share all of the materials that we want parents to be clearly aware of. Now, in the event that you're not able to make any of these, or you can only make some, you don't have to, commit to all. We will also make, when we get to the point of adopting K-8 instructional materials, we'll do that in the 26-27 school year. And there'll be multiple opportunities for parents to come into the governing boardroom, and spend some time looking at that. And we'll make sure that there's AM times for that and PM times for that. And those are supervised, and I'll be there and answer questions and, give you an opportunity to look stuff over. So I want to be, super transparent and open about this. And finally, here's our summary before I give an opportunity for closing remarks by my colleagues. First, thanks for coming to our talk. Students and parents, you have a lot of options when considering taking advanced honors and advanced placement classes, and we hope that tonight's talk, and if you'll attend it in the next couple of years, we'll kind of lay in that like, okay, I remember what Mr. Cardinal said about wanting to make a thoughtful plan of transitioning from elementary to secondary school. I remember what he said that, even if we decide that my student will begin middle school on the so-called college preparatory path, there's opportunities for movement to the advanced path. I also remember what Mr. Cardinal said about, if my child is math precocious and they really want to seek an opportunity to work perhaps a year or more ahead, there's multiple pathways to achieve that. And students can skip ahead through those methods. That our math program is robust and your students will be challenged as they move it. They have a remarkable group of teachers. The LCHS math faculty are an outstanding group of human beings who are remarkable at their craft. And so your students are going to be in great hands. And that we really want to ask that you continue to partner with us to emphasize wellness, belonging, and engagement as part of your students' transition to grades 7 through 12. Now, I appreciate that that's a whole other talk about what that actually means, but just I want you to hear it from me. I was your high school principal for 6 years, taught at Locking High School for 9 years in the social science department. So I spent pretty much the entirety of the century at LCHS. It is a wonderful place, but there's also some competition and some student stress that's there about, as students kind of figure out how they're going to distinguish themselves in their attempt to want to apply to a so-called good college. And so we just want to make sure that they're being mindful that, not everything they say they have to do right at that moment. Dear colleagues, want to provide you an opportunity for some closing remarks, anything that you wish to share for the good of the order. Dr. Gold, how are we doing on the Q&A?
Good. So just a couple requests. Just when you send out the email about the summary, there's a couple requests for examples of or the books or text that we use for algebra and geometry. So if you could I'm just telling people we'll add that to the email. Maybe we'll just show what books they are.
Sure.
The one big question I wasn't able to answer that I think is more of a you answer is, has there been any talks about having an advanced course in 6th grade to avoid this big 2-year skip test?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a remarkably artful way for me to say that, and you'll judge me as I try to, Dr. Gold. The district has had those conversations over the years. We have changed to, kind of not having leveled math, and we're not at this point considering changing that.
Perfect. Other than that, we don't have any other questions. Just again, a couple requests for the books that they use in the upper division, the upper level math classes.
Yeah, I'm happy to say it aloud, but we'll also send it out. Glencoe Algebra 1 is the book, Glencoe Algebra 1.
And they also want to know about geometry.
Geometry is called Big Ideas Geometry. I
Perfect.
think, again, those are less specific about the books than they are about a content, right? So if you have an algebra book, again, Glencoe Geometry, but make sure we send that out. Ms. Com, anything for the good of the order? Parting thoughts?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for attending and listening to our comments. I think the summary here is really good, especially that last bullet point emphasizing the wellness. Having teach the rigorous AP calculus class, I have a lot of juniors and seniors in that class that it's sometimes difficult to balance everything that they have in their schedule. So there is that other option of AP calculus. It's still AP designated, still run through College Board. It's still college level material, but perhaps that would be a good way to kind of balance the student schedule out if they want to continue to take 5, 6 APs at one time. But everything else that was presented in this tonight, I think was well said. I'm happy to address any questions too, if you need to reach out and kind of get the perspective of the calculus teacher. I'm more than happy to address those. And thank you to my colleagues for being so supportive down there. starting with the 7-8 teachers and Mr. Nunez with the freshmen. Again, they're really setting up the students to be successful at my end. And so I want to make sure that they do have a shout out, that they're being very diligent about, you know, these are the best places for your student to land. And everything that we want to do is in support of your student to have them be successful and really appreciate the content and the courses that they take.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. Dr. Gold, anything, parting remarks? Know that you have an
No,
obligation you gotta move off
yeah,
to.
that's okay. No, I mean, I appreciate what everyone's doing, and I think there are a lot of comments at the end just thanking us for having a night focus on math. It's a big topic in our district, a big topic in our community, and to be able to be transparent as possible, I think is very helpful for our parents. A lot of other questions that we could answer at another time about other opportunities to advance, and these are things that I could answer at another time with these parents. But and then also maybe gathering some suggestions that we have if people want to prepare. There are a couple requests from that, and what do we support, what don't we support, and that takes a little more time, I think. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was great.
And Dr. Gold, can you just be really declarative here to our 6th grade parents? You'll see them, I think, in a number of months, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I start communicating in the new year to introduce myself. Our first big event would be probably in March, is our incoming 7th grade parent night. And then I go talk to all the PTAs. You'll get sick of me by the end of your 6th grade year with all of the emails I send. So there'll be a lot of communication starting in the spring semester.
Not true, Dr. Gold. Appreciate it. Ms. Wright, anything for the good of the order?
You're muted.
Thanks, Ms. Wright.
Nope. Thank you to everyone.
Appreciate it. Mr. Nunez, for the good of the order.
Just appreciating the parents' engagement, all the questions there. I thought, it's spot on. That was the whole purpose of this, that, these questions can be brought to this sort of forum and give us an opportunity to provide, some guidance in that regard. And again, to hammer home the point that Ms. Call made regarding emphasizing wellness, belonging, and engagement. We see that too on the 9th grade end. This is the first experience that a lot of kids have with taking multiple challenging courses like advanced physics, an honors or advanced math course, and now they're enrolled in sports. So just kind of centering what's good for your particular student, what they enjoy. I think is what sets them up for success in the early years, and that transfers into success later down the line when Ms. Calm gets to meet them.
Thanks, Mr. Nunez. Just terrific. Well, appreciate that, everyone. I hope you all have a very, very safe and great evening. We're looking forward to seeing you, at your children's campuses. Certainly, if find yourself at any of the LCHS events, it's homecoming this coming Friday, by the way. The Spartans are supposed to have it on very, very good order, dear high school colleagues, that they're going to very much take care of the Rams from Temple City, and we're going to have a great night in Spartan Stadium. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Tomorrow we'll send the slide deck, a recording of this, to all 5th and 6th grade families, and make sure we have the resources in there for the Glencoe and the algebra book. Thanks a lot. Take care. Good night.